You think you're the exception. You've got the gear, you've done the research, you've mapped your bug-out location. You're not like the unprepared masses who'll panic and die in the first wave. You're the 1%, the guy who saw it coming and made the hard choices. Here's the problem with that thinking. Every documented collapse from Sarajevo to Syria shows the same pattern. The prepared loners who trusted no one died just as fast as the unprepared crowds, just more quietly and alone. Military doctrine, resistance movements, hunter-gatherer bands across human history, they all converge on the same answer. Survival is tribal. Groups of 3 to 7 with complementary skills and coordinated security outperform solo operators by a factor of 5 to 10. The lone wolf isn't a survivor archetype. It's a corpse waiting to happen. Let me show you why the math is non-negotiable. The lone wolf myth didn't come from survival reality. It came from Hollywood, prepper forums, and American frontier mythology. Post-apocalyptic fiction gave us Mad Max. Libertarian ideology gave us the framework that other people are liabilities. Mix those ingredients and you get a fantasy that contradicts every data point in human evolutionary history. Here's why it appeals. Control. Alone, you make every decision. No compromise, no risk that someone else's mistake kills you. Betrayal immunity. Can't be stabbed in the back if there's no one behind you. Self-reliance validation. The lone wolf fantasy is prepper pride taken to its logical extreme, and underneath it all, distrust. The myth says you don't need society or humans. That emotional logic is powerful. It's also completely disconnected from how humans actually survive crisis. Hunter-gatherer bands across every continent operated in groups of 20 to 150 individuals. That's Dunbar's number, the maximum stable social group size humans can maintain. But the optimal survival unit? 4 to 8 people with complementary skills. Military special forces discovered the same principle. Navy SEAL fire teams have 4 members. Army Special Forces A teams have 12, each with a specific specialty. The buddy system exists in every military for one reason. Solo operators don't come back. World War II resistance movements organized into cells of 3 to 7 members. Larger groups got infiltrated. Smaller groups lacked capability. That range shows up repeatedly because it's the mathematical sweet spot between security and effectiveness. Now look at documented collapses. Siege of Leningrad, 1941 to 1944. Survivors weren't isolated individuals hoarding food. They were family units pooling resources and splitting labor. Yugoslavian Civil War, 1990s. Solo operators in Sarajevo had life expectancies measured in weeks. Groups with coordinated security lasted years. Syrian Civil War, same pattern. Prepared loners died as fast as the unprepared, just more quietly. Here's the data. In every documented collapse where researchers tracked survival rates, isolated individuals had mortality rates 80 to 90% higher than coordinated groups in the first 6 months. Not from lack of supplies, from lack of redundancy. The psychological trap is preppers prepare alone because they plan to survive alone. That's planning for failure. You're optimizing for a scenario that has never worked in human history. The myth is seductive. The math is brutal. Let's run the numbers on why solo operators don't make it past month 3. Let's start with the most basic problem. You need sleep. The human body requires 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night to maintain cognitive function. That's non-negotiable biology. Sleep deprivation degrades decision-making, slows reaction time, crashes your immune system. In a survival scenario, those deficits are terminal. Who guards your position while you sleep? The solo operator has 2 options. Sleep and accept total vulnerability for 8 hours, or don't sleep and watch capability degrade until you make a fatal error. That's not strategy. That's picking which failure mode kills you. Now let's talk about calories. An adult performing moderate physical labor requires 2,500 calories per day. Heavy labor, cold weather, stress pushes that to 3,000 or more. Foraging, hunting, and gardening produce calories, but also consume them. You're burning 2,000 calories to produce 2,200. Do the math. That's a 200-calorie surplus if everything goes perfectly. One injury, one failed hunt, one bad harvest puts you in deficit. Caloric deficit means muscle wasting, cognitive decline, immune suppression. In 30 days, you're compromised. In 60, you're critical. The security paradox multiplies the problem. Maintaining 360-degree awareness alone is physically impossible. You watch one direction at a time. Threats approach from the directions you're not watching. Basic geometry. Equipment failure is inevitable. Tools break, filters clog, weapons malfunction. The solo operator has no redundancy and no specialized repair knowledge across systems. When critical equipment fails, you improvise with degraded capability, or the system stays broken. Now layer in injury. You twist an ankle chopping firewood. Not a break, just a sprain. Suddenly, you can't maintain security, can't forage effectively, can't move quickly if threats appear. That minor injury creates a vulnerability cascade. Limited mobility means reduced security. Reduced security means increased threat exposure. Increased threat exposure, while injured, is terminal. The psychological component is worse. Isolation produces decision fatigue, paranoia, depression. No external reality check. No peer review. No one to catch mistakes before they compound. Solo operators make increasingly erratic decisions under sustained isolation stress. That's single-point failure. When you are the single point, any failure becomes total system failure. You break an ankle, you're done. Single-point failure is how solo operators die. Now let me show you the specific scenarios that trigger the cascade. Scenario 1. You're chopping firewood, week 4. The axe glances off a knot and buries itself in your shin. Not deep, maybe an inch. You clean it, bandage it, take antibiotics from your stockpile. 3 days later, the wound is hot and swollen. Fever. That's infection. Here's the cascade. Infected wound means reduced mobility. You can't patrol your perimeter. You can't forage or hunt effectively. You're fighting the infection instead of maintaining security. Without medical care, without monitoring, that infection progresses to sepsis. Sepsis timeline is 7 to 10 days from infection to systemic failure. You need IV antibiotics and constant care. You have neither. You die alone surrounded by supplies that can't save you. That's death spiral 1. Physical injury, scenario 2. Food poisoning, week 6. Something you foraged? Something preserved incorrectly? Doesn't matter. Your body rejects everything. Vomiting every few hours. Diarrhea. Can't keep water down. Dehydration kills in 72 hours. You need someone to bring water, force you to sip small amounts, maintain the fire, keep watch while you're incapacitated. You're solo. You're crawling to your water supply with no one guarding your position. No one checking if you're improving or deteriorating. You can't tell if this is a 24-hour bug or something requiring intervention you don't have. By the time you realize it's serious, you're too weak to act. That's death spiral 2. Illness without support. Scenario 3. Month 3. You haven't spoken to another human in 90 days. The isolation is affecting your brain. Paranoia. You're seeing threats that aren't there, or you're not seeing threats that are because decision fatigue has you paralyzed. No reality check on your plans. No one to tell you when you're thinking clearly versus making fear-based decisions. No one to catch the mistake before you act. Isolation produces 2 paths: increased risk-taking from desperation or decreased risk tolerance from paranoia. Both lead to fatal errors. You either take unnecessary chances that kill you, or you become so cautious you can't perform necessary tasks. Either way, Judgment degrades until you make the decision that ends it. That's Death Spiral 3. Psychological breakdown. 3 ways to die. And I've only covered the physical failures. Now let's talk about what you can't learn alone. Here's a question nobody wants to answer. What happens when you don't know what you don't know? Survival requires mastery across multiple critical domains: medical care, field trauma, infection management, improvised pharmaceuticals, mechanical repair, engines, tools, weapons maintenance, fabrication, agriculture, soil management, seed saving, pest control, preservation, electrical systems, wiring, solar installation, battery management, troubleshooting, tactical operations, weapons proficiency, situational awareness, defensive positioning, water and chemical treatment, purification, sanitation, basic chemistry, construction and fortification, structural integrity, weatherproofing, defensive modifications. Each domain requires years of focused study for basic competence. Mastery takes longer. The 10,000-hour rule applies. That's roughly 5 years of full-time work per skill. You need proficiency in 7 domains minimum. Do the math. That's 35 years of training if you could somehow study full-time with perfect retention and 0 skill decay. You can't. The solo operator becomes a jack of all trades, master of none. When you need specialist knowledge, a compound fracture that requires reduction and stabilization, an engine that won't start and you can't diagnose why, improvisation fails. People die from problems that trained specialists solve routinely. The knowledge decay problem compounds this. Skills atrophy without practice. You can't maintain proficiency across 7 domains simultaneously. You focus on tactical training, your medical knowledge degrades. You focus on agriculture, your mechanical skills rust. Critical failure happens in whichever skill you've practiced least recently. That's not bad luck. That's probability. The innovation dead end is worse. Solo operators have no peer review, no brainstorming, no second opinions. Groups generate solutions through discussion. Someone suggests an approach you hadn't considered. Someone catches a flaw in your plan before you implement it. Scientific advancement, military strategy development, engineering breakthroughs, all collaborative processes. You can't innovate effectively in isolation. Here's the experience gap. You can't test your survival plan under real stress alone. Groups provide training partners, drill scenarios, feedback loops. You practice coordination, identify weaknesses, refine procedures before the crisis hits. The solo operator's first real crisis becomes his first real test. That's usually fatal. Military training doctrine recognizes this reality. Special forces cross-train within specializations. Medics know basic demolitions. Engineers know basic medicine. But each operator has a primary specialty that took years to develop. The team covers all domains through distributed expertise. That's not just efficient. That's the only way complex operations succeed. The lone wolf dies from what he doesn't know, but groups with specialists survive what individuals can't. Let me show you the math. Military special forces don't operate in squads of 50. They operate in teams of 4 to 12. Why that number? Because physics and psychology both converge on the same answer. The optimal survival group is 3 to 7 core members. Below 3, you're still too fragile. Insufficient specialization. Inadequate security rotation. Above 7, coordination complexity increases. Resource strain multiplies. Operational security degrades. The sweet spot is 4 to 6 people. The mathematical advantages are overwhelming. Security rotation becomes viable. 3 people can maintain 8-hour watch shifts with continuous coverage. 4 people provide redundancy if someone gets sick. That solves the sleep problem that kills solo operators. Labor multiplication follows exponential curves, not linear ones. 4 people don't produce 4 times what 1 person produces. They produce 10 times the output through synergy, division of labor, and parallel processing. 1 person digs while another plants, while a third processes food, while the 4th maintains security. Tasks happen simultaneously instead of sequentially. Skill coverage expands geometrically. 5 people can master 5 critical domains: medical, mechanical, agricultural, tactical, chemical. Each person develops deep expertise in 1 or 2 areas. The group covers all necessary knowledge without anyone becoming a dilettante. Redundancy in critical skills means injury doesn't eliminate capability. 2 people know basic medicine. 2 understand mechanical repair. Key competencies overlap. The operational advantages multiply force effectiveness. Groups can split into 2-person teams for foraging or scouting while maintaining security at base. 3 or 4 shooters can establish 360-degree defensive coverage. Knowledge transfer happens continuously. Skills get taught, preserved, refined through practice. Morale and mental health remain stable through social bonding. Isolation can't break what doesn't isolate. Historical precedents validate the model. Special Forces A-teams have 12 members with specific specializations. Navy SEAL fire teams operate with 4 members. Resistance cells during World War II organized into groups of 4 to 8. Larger cells got infiltrated or discovered. Smaller cells lacked operational capability. Hunter-gatherer societies optimized foraging groups at 5 to 7 members. Too few meant inefficient hunting. Too many meant resource competition. Every successful model across military operations, resistance movements, and evolutionary anthropology converges on the same range. That's not coincidence. That's mathematics and human psychology finding the optimization point. Do the math. 4 people with 8-hour shifts equals 24-hour security coverage. 5 specialists cover all survival domains. 6 people provide redundancy without coordination complexity. The numbers work because they're based on operational reality, not fantasy. Okay, you understand the math. Now let's talk about who belongs in your group and who gets you killed. The wrong person in your group is worse than being alone. You're not selecting people. You're selecting roles: medical, trauma care and field medicine; mechanical, repair and fabrication; security, tactical proficiency and situational awareness; food production, agriculture and preservation; chemical, water purification and sanitation. Each person covers 1 to 2 roles. The group covers all 5. Psychological requirements matter more than skills. Emotional stability under stress is the veto criterion. Unstable equals liability, non-negotiable. Teachability, willing to learn and accept correction. Work ethic, no passengers. Low ego, survival trumps being right. Conflict resolution capability, can disagree without fracturing the group. Trust is the foundation. Pre-collapse relationships survive crisis better than crisis-formed bonds. Shared values provide conflict resolution frameworks. History of cooperation under stress proves capability. Geographic proximity is non-negotiable. You can't build a survival group with people 200 miles away. Red flags disqualify immediately. Substance dependency issues, inability to defer gratification, authoritarian personality or refusal to follow agreed plans, chronic complainers who poison morale, people who won't train or prepare now won't perform under stress. No exceptions. Here's what most people get wrong. They select for likability or Friendship. Wrong criteria. You need competence, stability, and complementary skills. The person you'd choose for a camping trip isn't necessarily the person you want when bullets are flying and food is scarce. Special Forces selection prioritizes psychological resilience over physical capability. They can teach someone to shoot. They can't teach someone to stay calm when everything breaks. The same principle applies to survival groups. Vet people now, not during collapse. Test them through challenges, weekend projects, skills training, stress scenarios. Watch how they handle frustration, fatigue, interpersonal conflict. That's your selection process. Your group gives you multiplication. Networks give you infrastructure. Let me show you the next level. Your 5-person group survives. 5 other groups within 20 miles also survive. What happens when you coordinate? The network structure is simple. 3 to 5 allied groups, each 4 to 6 people. Total network, 15 to 30 people distributed across geography. Loose coordination, not centralized command. Each group maintains autonomy. Network advantages multiply capability. Resource specialization allows focus. One group handles grain, another livestock, another metal work. Trade networks develop for surplus exchange. Intelligence sharing provides awareness across locations. Threat movements, resource availability. Distributed risk means one compromised location doesn't destroy the network. Defense multiplication allows coordinated response against threats that would overwhelm single groups. Communication operates without modern infrastructure. Prearranged meeting locations and times. Radio if operational. Messenger runners for information exchange. Dead drops for sensitive intelligence. Minimal electronic footprint for security. Trust requires pre-collapse foundation. Networks built from existing relationships, families, extended kin, trusted friends. Gradual expansion through proven reliability. Clear terms for what gets shared, what stays protected, how conflicts resolve. Geographic range balances accessibility with diversity. Optimal radius, 5 to 20 miles. Far enough for resource diversity. Close enough for mutual aid without vehicles. Walking distance is the limiting factor. Historical validation exists. Underground railroad, resistance networks, medieval trade guilds, all operated on similar principles. Distributed autonomous nodes with loose coordination. Networks multiply survival probability by distributing capability and risk across multiple positions. This is how you build post-collapse infrastructure. That's the ideal. Now let's talk about the reality nobody wants to discuss. What happens when groups fail? Here's what the survival manuals don't tell you about groups. Trust can break. Betrayal, theft, abandonment under pressure. Conflicts escalate over resources, leadership, personal friction. Difficult decisions become unavoidable. Who gets medical resources? How to handle threats? When to cut someone loose? Group cohesion frays under sustained stress. No perfect answer, just trade-offs. Why groups still beat solo? Even with problems, survival probability increases 500 to 1,000%. Conflict in a group is manageable. Isolation is terminal. Human psychology evolved for group problems, not solo survival. The question isn't whether groups have problems. It's which problems you'd rather face. The time pressure reality. You can't build trust during collapse. It must exist beforehand. Social bonds take years, months minimum. Current society provides infrastructure for meeting and vetting. Every month of delay weakens your foundation. Specific action steps right now. Inventory existing relationships. Family, friends, co-workers, neighbors. Identify 3 to 5 people with complementary skills and compatible values. Start low-key coordination. Camping trips, skill shares, equipment discussions. Build relationships without announcing anything. Cross-train. Teach skills, share knowledge, establish communication redundancy. Radios, meeting locations, backup plans. Test coordination through challenges. Weekend projects, training exercises. Watch how people handle stress, binary choice. Path 1. Maintain the lone wolf fantasy. Die in month 2 from injury, illness, or isolation. Path 2. Build group connections now. Multiply survival probability 5 to 10 times. The choice happens through action or inaction. 99% will do nothing. Keep scrolling, keep fantasizing. 1% will act. Inventory relationships, start conversations, build networks. When collapse hits, trust can't be forged under gunfire. Which percentage are you? The lone wolf is a myth. The pack is reality. Choose accordingly.